Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I have a fun little eyeshadow palette related video for you. Today I'm going to be going over with you the 10 eyeshadow palettes I would keep from my collection. I have over 75 palettes, so this one was pretty hard. Why don't we go ahead and get into it. Alright, as we get started, please ignore this hair. Day 2 hair is just an issue for me, and also I tried to curl it and then it's just turned into this. I don't know, I have no words for how this looks. But when I was thinking about my palette collection, I have over 75 palettes like I said earlier, and I was thinking to myself, how do I narrow it down to 10? Part of me was like starting to do this whole like planning process of warm tones, cool tones, color. I need this color, I need that color. And then like when I looked at that first initial list, I was like, no, I'm missing some of like more sentimental palettes, some of my more expensive palettes. And I literally spent days trying to think about what 10 palettes I would want to bring. And so eventually I had to tell myself, all right, maybe the prompt should be keep 10 palettes. If literally Bo walked in here right now and said, DaLin, pack a bag, we're leaving, we're not coming back, you can only bring 10 eyeshadow palettes. First of all, I'd look at him and be like, who do you think you are? Like I haven't spent over 10 years married to the man. But also, what 10 eyeshadow palettes would I realistically bring if it were, you know, if he was telling me I had to do it? So with Bo to blame for this scenario, I did try to think about things in terms of warm tones, cool tones, some playful colors, but I would be lying if I didn't say that some of these choices were based on sentimentality and money spent on things like that. So let's get started with warm tone colors. You probably won't be surprised to see this guy first. This is my Natasha Denona Gold palette. This one is a super sentimental palette for me, but also it's just a straight gorgeous palette. Lots of like, I feel like I got my mostly warm tone color itch kind of scratched with this guy. And then I can't forget to mention these like fun little gold colors here. I'll go ahead and swatch these guys for you. So we have those two like beautiful green shades from the gold palette. This would definitely be one that I would put in my like emergency leave bag. Another palette that I thought about, that this guy here I don't have a ton of experience with, and that probably impacts my decision somewhat, is that like I'm really excited to use this and I really want to use this. At the same time, when I look at this Mulan palette from ColourPop, I think to myself, this is probably one of my favorite. If I could design a neutral palette for me, this is probably what it would look like. Again, we got some warmer tones. We got a couple cool tones here, like over on the side, and then pops of red. I love red, and I consider red to be a very wearable shade for me. So this would be one that I would also want to bring. Okay, moving into palette number 3. This one was one that, again, I wanted to pick up because I thought to myself, I can't get this again. So if I were going to keep 10 palettes, this one's also like another solid, just super wearable option. I think that's part of the appeal to it too, is that I know I could reach in this any day of the week and pull a look out of it. I could pull something fun out of it. I could pull something just completely wearable and safe out of it. So this is the ABH Sultry palette. Again, a nice mix of more neutral tones, kind of leans in some cool areas, and then the little fun pop of color. I really love this like silvery shade here too, so this is definitely one that I wouldn't hesitate to pick out. Now moving into a cool tone option, I know I have some cooler tones in the Sultry palette, so I'm kind of considering that, but this guy here, the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette, I'm actually wearing this palette today. I am in love with this palette. Like, this palette I got earlier this year, and I absolutely stinking adore it. This is one that I definitely would pull for. You can get mauve looks out of this. You can kind of get some like more pinky bronzy leaning, or bronzy tones that lean kind of pink out of this, and of course you can get like this kind of almost purpley bluey shade out of it. Super wearable palette, but also has some amazing textures in it. This one is like kind of covering these odd shades throughout some of these palettes that lean cooler. I feel like this guy could fill in the rest of like the cool tones that I would want to wear for myself. So this one is definitely one that I would bring. Alright, let's move into palettes that have more colorful options. I'll start with the one that's probably still on the more wearable side. This is my ABH Norvina palette. I love this palette. This is probably, for the longest time, I haven't really thought about it lately, so I don't know for sure if I can still say that this is my favorite palette in my collection. She's learned that if she coughs, I'll look at her and like give her lots of attention. So if you hear her coughing, that's why, because she's trying to get my attention. She really likes this camera and very interested in it. I see you. But like I was saying, I think for the longest time I would have said that this is my favorite palette. I honestly haven't thought about what my favorite palette is in my collection, considering that I brought a lot in this past year. But this palette here, I feel like has a ton of versatility to it. I love the pink tones, I love the purple tones. There's some warm tones in it. Just an overall solid palette that I would definitely want to have in my collection. If you can't tell, I'm very comfortable in warm tones. I really learned to love cooler tones this year. But you know, narrowing it down, I was like, am I gonna pick like my ColourPop That's Taupe palette that's definitely cool tone over some of these? Probably not. So another colorful option that I would definitely bring is my Jackie Aina palette. Another one that I can't get my hands on anymore, so that's part of the reason why I'm like, you know, these shades are special. Again, I love a red shade, and I was thinking to myself, I know for sure I want to bring a red palette or something where I can get a really red look from, but I don't love my ColourPop, like the red palette, the red 9pan from them as much as I would want to put it in this top thing. Another one is my 3502 palette, super sentimental palette. Almost put it in here, but I literally only wear like 2 or 3 shades from that palette, and then I wouldn't touch the rest of them. So for me, I thought to myself, this one has a red, and not only that, but it's got some stunning other shades, like some greeny bronzes. This one pulls quite cool tone. The purple's fun. Just overall a super solid palette. These shades down here are stunning, so I definitely would also grab this one. Palette number 7, let's just get the last ABH palette out of the way. If you can't tell, I'm a big ABH fan. This guy here, the newest one to my collection from the brand, is the Nouveau palette. And again, I love a green, and I find that these greens are super wearable, and at the same time, like this shade up here has quickly become one of my favorite go-to shades recently. So this is another one that I thought to myself, no-brainer, since it's new, it's very exciting. I definitely would want to bring this one with me as well. Palettes number 8 and 9 are ones that are just expensive, and I just can't leave them behind, even if they may not offer color stories to me that like satisfy certain urges. Like, I love to wear yellows, I love to wear reds. I don't really have any yellows in this video or in this stack, so that would be something that I would kind of miss out on. I can get some mustardy yellows from like, and golds from like the gold palette, but I think I would forego something like a ColourPop 9pan for something like this, since I already own it. This is the Mothership Divine Rose 2 palette, and this is one that is sentimental to me, but I also do appreciate that you can get some bright pink looks out of there. Occasionally in the spring or summer, I do like to play with some bright pinks. And then these special shades, again, I definitely will swatch them for you 1 second. And then we have swatches right there. These shades are very special, would be very fun to play around with, and so that was another reason why I decided, you know what, I would grab this. This peachy shade is a pretty wearable shade. This shade is pretty wearable, even if it leans a little bit more burgundy than what I would normally wear. I feel like I could get some very wearable, especially I think spring would be like mostly pulled out of this palette. And then the other one of these Pat McGrath palettes was the Moonlit Seduction palette. This one is newer to me as well. And again, this one has some more unique tones to it. Honestly, I think both of these palettes are missing some like lighter transition shades in the grand scheme of things. But these special shades are so much fun and inspiring, and even like the rest of the shades in here are like super awesome, like very fun to work with. They're just very pigmented, and for someone like me who needs a little bit of like transition or shades to kind of make things a little bit lighter, because that's the way I tend to wear my makeup, that's just something that I kind of see as a personal flaw for a palette that can cost so much. But there are those shades also. But yeah, these two would definitely be packed last minute because they're very expensive palettes, and they're very good quality too. And then palette number 10 in this collection, if I had to choose, I feel like I got green covered. I don't really have yellow covered, but I don't have a pure yellow palette that I feel like beats these guys out, sentimentality at least wise. I do think I have some orangey tones in here, some pinks in there, and then green is like mostly my favorite color to wear. So one of the last palette goes to this Hella palette from Odin's Eye, and hello. I mean, you can get some really fun bright greens. You can get some more wearable like mossy fall greens out of it. These shades, this shade down here is super wearable day to day in general. It's got some fun pinks to it. Just an overall really fun palette that I would definitely think to myself I would miss if I didn't have in this like go bag of mine that Bo made me pack, feel free to leave him hate comments below. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Make sure you say hello. Let me know in the comments, what palettes would you bring or would you keep if you were only allowed to keep 10 items? Because that was hard. And I hope you didn't mind the little rule change that I had to make myself do, because literally I was paralyzed for days trying to go back and forth between what palettes I would want to keep and which ones I would actually let go of. So make sure again, say hello, and I will see you in the next one.